So in this presentation, I'm going to bring together average product and marginal product and average costs and marginal costs, and specifically as well average variable costs. I'm going to show you how those are related. So it doesn't fit into a specific specification objective, but it's just for those students that want that extra level of depth and understanding. So this was from the previous presentation when we were looking at diminishing returns, and we looked at units of labour and the total amount that they produce, total product, and then to work out average product, we just did total product divided by the number of units of labour, and that was the average amount that each unit of labour was producing. And we saw the marginal product at first increased and then it decreased, and this was the diminishing returns setting in as the variable factor of production becomes less efficient because there's a fixed factor of production in the short run. So now you can see here that we've got total cost and average cost and marginal cost on this slide. So we're going to be able to link these concepts all together, because I said in the last presentation, I'm just drawing a very quick diagram here, that average product does something a little bit like that, and marginal product goes like that, and this point here onwards is showing diminishing returns, but that you can also show it on your cost diagrams with average cost, marginal cost, and that point there showing diminishing returns. So I'm just going to show you how they're both linked to each other. So if we imagine we have a wage rate in the market of £20 per person, and it doesn't alter no matter how many people you employ. So essentially what I'm saying is that labour has a perfectly elastic supply, and so you look at that when you look at labour markets as well, but it just makes my numbers a little bit more simple to deal with. That's why I've done that. And to work out the labour cost, we're just going to do wage rate times the number of labour that we have. And this is actually going to be, I'm assuming that there's no other variable costs involved, but this is going to be a variable cost because we're going to see that it actually increases with the amount of output that we're producing. So that is the definition of a variable cost, where it varies with output. So we can see output's increasing, and we see that the variable costs are increasing, so it means it's a variable cost. Now, to work out the average variable cost, I'm going to take this total variable cost and I'm going to divide it by the number of units that we've produced to find out the average variable cost per unit of production. And this will give us these figures here. So we can see that average variable costs are falling, and then after a certain point, you can see this point here, they start to increase again, and that's the partly diminishing, well, not partly, it is diminishing returns setting in after that point there. Fixed costs, we know that they don't vary with output, so it's just a fixed amount there. And average fixed costs, all I'm doing is taking the fixed costs and I'm dividing it by the number of units that we're producing to find the average fixed cost of producing a unit. Okay, for total costs, all I need to do is add the fixed cost to the total variable cost. There we go. I lost it again. So add those two together and you're going to get this total cost. So there are my total costs. And then average costs, again, I'm taking this total cost and I'm going to divide it by the number of units that we have. And there are my average costs. So we're starting to see how everything's linked together, and we're seeing the relationship that we would expect, that at the start, average costs fall, and then after a certain point, they start to increase. And we're going to have a look at why that is in a second, but it's definitely got something to do with diminishing returns as well. Marginal cost is a little bit more difficult to work out with this one, because we've got our total cost, our change in total cost, but actually you can see here total product is increasing not by one each time, but by varying amounts. So what we have to do is work out the difference between that and that and that and that and that and that. So basically the marginal product, and divide it, work out the difference between total cost and then divide by that marginal product. So the difference between 0, as it would be, for the total costs are 70 divided by the marginal product, which is 5. In this case, what I've done is I've assumed that the total cost would be 0 if they were producing 0, but you could also have it as 50. But in this case, I've done it as 70 divided by the 5. For the next one, we would have the difference between total costs, so 70 between difference between 70 and 90, which is 20, and then divide it by the 7 there. So we should get these figures that come up, and you can see here I've got a gap at the bottom, and the reason being I can work out the total cost, the difference between these ones here, which would be 20, but I can't divide the number by 0. We've reached the maximum output when we get to 10 units of labour there, so that's why that one's blank. Okay, so this shows you how the total product, average product, marginal product link with the total cost, average cost, and marginal cost. And what we can do is show these on diagrams. So we've had a look at these before. So where marginal product and average product cross is actually where marginal cost and average variable cost, it's important that it's average variable cost cross, but the difference between these two diagrams are your axes. So here on the vertical axis for marginal product, we're looking at output, whereas on your cost diagrams, oh, not a very good circle, on your cost diagrams, we're looking at monetary value, and along the horizontal axes, we're looking at the quantity. This is, I've copied and pasted this from Google, it's American spelling, but you're looking at the quantity of labour, so your variable factor of production that you're adding, and then along the bottom here we've got the quantity of output, so number of units of output. So you've got different numbers and scales on each one, but I'll show you that they do intersect at the same point. So here we find that, I should have something highlighted there, yep. So between 5 and 6 units, this is where average product and marginal product are going to intersect and be at the same number, okay? And if we look across to over here and have a look where it's actually not average cost, but marginal cost intersects with average variable cost, we will see that it's at the same part, okay? So it's where 49 units, between producing 49 units and 56 units. So it's going to intersect at that same point, and you can only produce that amount with 5 to 6, more than 5 people. Okay, now the point where average cost and marginal cost intersect is going to be a little bit later on, because we've got those benefits from spreading our fixed costs over a greater number of units. So that's why that always happens a bit later on, and that's going to happen between 6 and 7 people, or once you get above 56 units of output. So on a diagram, these points are going to be at the same points. Whoops, not very straight. But if we add in, oh gosh, terrible. There we go. If we add the average cost curve, there we go. It's going to just be at a bit further, a point further to the right of where marginal cost intersects average variable cost. Okay, because the distance between those two is your fixed costs, and so we're still going to benefit for a little while longer from spreading those costs over a greater number of units. Okay.